It's a stunning property for sure. It's almost 400 acres, and the winery and tasting room are positioned at the bottom of the hill, and so you look up at this vineyard, which is on a hillside, an expansive hillside, and it's stunning. There's a tree line at the very top of the hill, a lot of open space, and it's really a lot like being in a postcard. I've been at Stoller as a winemaker since 2003, and recently, as of 2015, I became the Director of Winemaking because we've grown quite a bit and our team has grown, so quite a long time. So I came to making wine as a refugee, if you will. That's what a lot of us say with the wine industry, because it's such a young industry in general. I mean, Oregon's been growing grapes for just over 50 years, so it's not even a person's lifetime. So most people that are making wine, selling wine, growing grapes have come from something else. So for me, I was going to go into medicine, have a science degree, went to Portland State University, was going to go to naturopathic medicine, and got interested in wine, and some other events in my life kind of pointed me in the direction to be very interested in wine. And so I decided, instead of going to graduate school after getting my bachelor's degree, to try an internship. So my first harvest was 2001 at Cooper Mountain Vineyards in Beaverton, and I loved it and had a lot of opportunity to do work there because the assistant winemaker at the time, quit quite shortly before harvest. So for me, I was able to get my hands on a lot more than I probably should have, but I loved it and stuck with it, and then came to Stoller in 2003.
Well, you're certainly at the right place at the right time.
Definitely. A lot of the right place, the right time, being in Oregon, at those, both of those things, and networking with people here. So when I was hired in 2003 as the winemaker, it was a lot different of a scenario here for Stoller Family Estate. So the vineyard at that time was a little over 100 acres. And Bill Stoller, the owner, proprietor, he's a third generation Oregonian, and he purchased this property in the late 80s with the vision of putting in this world-class vineyard and selling most of the fruit. So that was his philosophy. He partnered shortly after purchasing this property with Chehalem winemaker at that time, Harry Peterson Nedry, and they had that co-ownership of Chehalem. He grew the grapes, hired me in 2003 to be a winemaker for just a very small label that he decided he wanted from his estate, less than 1,000 cases of Stoller. So at that time in 2003, the vision was, over the lifetime of the brand, it'd probably be about 4,000 cases after 10 years, and that's it. A tiny winery we may build on the estate someday, on the vineyard, and that was that. So time goes on, and Bill Stoller plants more grapes, and then decides to build a winery. So in 2005, the winery was constructed here on the vineyard, and at that time, it was the first LEED Gold winery in the world. So LEED is Leader in Energy Environmental Design,
right.
And constructed this beautiful facility for making wine. Started off making a couple thousand cases, and now it's grown. The vineyard to date is over 220 acres, and the winery, we have 2 winemaking facilities on our property, and we produce a lot more than 3,000 cases of wine. Yeah, that's for sure. I was.
That's really cool.
It is, yeah. It's neat. I like to look back at all these chapters that I've been able to be a part of here, and it is cool to see at that time, the vision was so exciting that someday it was going to be a 4,000 case brand, over 10 years, and it's really come a long ways. Sure, I think it's an interesting title. And it can mean a lot of things. Here at Stoller, we have 2 facilities, and we hired Ben Howe to be winemaker and help oversee our construction of the new facility that we built in 2015. Ben comes from a background of making wine at King Estate in Eugene, in Oregon, and he brought a real strong presence of being able to operate larger scale production and a lot of logistics, and really intelligent person. So he is winemaker and oversees that facility in particular. and operations in general between both facilities. We also have an associate winemaker, Kate Payne-Brown, who comes from working 8 years at Archery Summit, which is a winery here in Oregon that focuses on really high-end, small lot Pinot Noir. And she primarily oversees the original winery here. We call it the Reserve Winery. And in this original winery, we make our legacy wines, our smaller cuvées, our reserve Pinot Noirs, and things like that. So she has a lot of finesse and a lot of skill crafting these smaller lots of wine. So that's a really complementary team. And we also have a very strong cellar team and support team. We've got an awesome 2 cellar masters and cellar hands, and a very dynamic group, which is absolutely necessary. And my role as Director of Winemaking is to oversee the team at both places and really still keep my finger on the pulse of the blends and the style of Stoller as we're making the wines and growing, and just helping to kind of forecast the future. And I also do a lot of representation of the brand and some sales travel, things like that. So a little bit of everything, but primarily just overseeing the whole team. Yeah, it's really interesting for me now to have been making wine at the same place for this year will be 15 years, so it's almost 16 vintages. And if you line up all those bottles on the table, wine really is like a time capsule, especially when you're involved in production, and it cements things in that I might not normally remember, but you remember, the season and the vintage in general and the people and kind of the chapters. So it's neat. I don't have a very good memory, so it really helps me that way. It helps to have it in a bottle like that.